Music can save lives, both in people who make it and those who listen. That's the case with Skyler Ray, a musician from Portland, Oregon. From broken family to foster care to life on the street, Skyler had aspirations of making music from as young as 9 years old. But life got in the way. Today, with a growing music career and 5 years in recovery, Skyler joined Donna and I on the podcast to talk about his journey and what he learned along the way. But before we get into it, what's up? My name's Dan, podcaster, keynote speaker, and advocate, and this is Hard Knocks Talks, your addictions podcast. If you're interested in fostering productive conversations about substance use in your community, organization, or event, reach out to us at daniel@hardknockstalks.com to learn more about our public speaking and live onstage podcast productions. And with that, let's get into our conversation with Skyler Ray.
This is Hard Knocks Talks.
What's up, Skyler? How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I'm really digging your microphone. You sound amazing. I love it. I appreciate you very much for taking the time to set that up and for us and everything like that. So you reached out to us. I think you reached out to us a little while ago. Wasn't that right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, we kicked off right away, and I'm happy to have you here. Before we jump in, though, is there anything that you'd like to start off with? Anything you'd like to say?
For anybody who's listening, my name is Skyler Ray. I'm a music artist in long-term recovery. A little over 5 years clean and sober. And if you guys know anything about me, I use my platform and my music is based off of real life experiences, which I'm sure you guys will hear about that in this episode. And I'm grateful to be here. Thank you so much for responding to the comments and allowing me on your platform.
Of course. So why don't we jump in then? Why don't we start like a little bit with how it all got started for you? Like, did you grow up around a lot of drug use, or was that something that came in on its own?
Well, at a young age, there was always like marijuana, alcohol kind of in the house, right? And so kind of, it was always just around and I kind of knew of it. And then I found myself kind of in foster homes at like 9. But I was smoking with my dad. I had an older brother. So my older brother was 4 years older than me. So as the time he got into the age where he kind of plays with the drugs and things like that, it kind of came with me. And I kind of did it as well, just because he took me everywhere with him, if that makes sense. So if his age group was drinking and smoking, I caught on a little bit early, And so it kind of became that way. I wouldn't say it was always in the household as far as like hard drugs, but one thing leads to another, as you know, right? You start smoking weed, you start drinking. Next thing you know, you're shooting dope and you're homeless under a bridge.
Whoa,
it
that
doesn't
escalated
happen that
quickly.
quick, but no, it doesn't happen that quick, but
Yeah. So hang on now.
When journey, go ahead.
When you were hanging out with your brother, and you were did you feel privileged? Did you feel like you were getting to do things that other kids your age were doing? Like, were you bragging about it?
I wouldn't say if I was bragging, because I knew I was doing stuff I wasn't supposed to. But I hung out with my friends at school. Then afterwards, I went and hung out with his friends, if that makes sense. We had a best friend, and I say we had a best friend because every day we hung out with this kid. His name was Aniva. And we used to always run around. Like, that was kind of the thing. Like, we would drink or smoke or, ring doorbells or throw eggs, like steal from the stores. That was kind of like the thing as kids to kind of do. You're like 8, 9, 10, but like as like the alcohol and the drug use came around, I wouldn't say I really talked about it with my friends at school, because when school ended, I wasn't around them, if that makes sense. And I kind of just knew to keep it hush hush. I wasn't trying to get nobody in trouble.
Yeah.
So,
Cool, man. So did you graduate?
I did graduate. I dropped out for a year when I was maybe 17, and then I went back to school. Maybe I dropped out when I was close to 18, because I went back to school at 19. I'm very proud of that. I found myself in a situation. I tried to go live with this girl. I thought, I was going to be 18. I was going to be an adult. I went with her. I lived there for a little bit. Then after the breakup, I realized that there was no reason why I should be out of school, and that I was this close, so I might as well get back into it and finish the job.
So it wasn't at this point in your life, it wasn't, you weren't completely lost then. Like, if you still had the wherewithal, though, maybe I should go and finish high school. Like, you still had aspirations. Like, what were your aspirations? Like, what did you want to do?
Music.
So it's
I've
always
been
been
doing
about
music
music?
since yeah, yeah.
Mm.
I wanted to do music since 9, and I've been doing music since 11.
Wow.
I'll be 34 this year.
Mhm.
So it's always that's always been the dream on the front line. Even because up until high school, I mean, at the end we're talking about getting back in school, right? I've
Mhm.
tried hard drugs. I've tried like meth a couple times at that point. I've tried, some pills. I've tried like ecstasy, mushrooms. Like there's a lot of stuff I tried, right? But it wasn't an everyday thing.
Mm.
So it was like I was smoking weed every day and drinking every day, but
Mhm.
that was as far as it went. So I still had a little bit, I wasn't on the hard stuff, right? Not
Yeah.
saying anything's all right, but I wasn't on the hard stuff, and I was still somewhat had my mind right. And I just felt like if I had to do anything, like I got to at least hold on for these next 4 or 5 months of school and
Mhm.
figure things out, right? And then I can do whatever I want. So,
Mhm.
but mostly I was focused on music. I had no plans of wanting to go to college. I still never been to college. Um, eventually I think I would want to go to college, but it would be later down the line. It would be for business. It
Yeah.
would be for marketing, things like that. Just for things to, selflessly use in my career pathway.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, but that's later down the road. As right now, I'm pretty content, but I'm always down to learn some more. So,
Yeah, yeah. So you finished high school then. Did
Mhm.
did you have any success in a career?
I did. I did. It was a
Yeah.
sales job. It was a sales
Oh.
job. So after I was like 18, so I lived with my brother, and then afterwards, he fell back into his addiction, and I moved back to Portland, and that's when I became homeless, right? I had too much pride to ask for help, too much things like that. And there really wasn't much help. And I kind of went downtown. Someone said there's a shelter downtown. And that's when my real drug addiction started. Like the whole, not started, but like the hard drugs where I became homeless and shooting meth and selling it, prison, all that stuff like that. But I
Mhm.
did get clean at about 22 years old, the first time, right?
Yeah.
And I ended up getting this job. I couldn't find a job. Well, I didn't look. I take that back. I didn't look for a job until I did. And
Mhm.
somebody told me, hey, there's a sales job. They hire everybody. And so I was like, okay,
That
cool.
sounds
So I went
sketchy.
in there. It was. Well,
What were you
they said
selling?
they didn't want to hire people because their records, right?
Yeah.
And because they wanted people to have clean records, no felons. And I went in there and he's like, do you have any sales experience? And I was like, yes, flip to the next page. You see the criminal history right there? I said, that's sales experience right there. I
That's one
said,
hell of a
it may not
resume.
be the ones you want, but I said, but it is sales experience. And I said, I'm willing to work hard,
Mhm.
may not be the best, but I'm willing to outwork the person next to me. And so I ended up getting this job, and I ended up like after like a year, ended up being a manager. I'm ended up excelling. I'm like 23 years old, 24 years old, on salary. I got my own little personal office. We got the sales floor. I'm managing a bunch of people. Like I found a lot of success in that area just because it allowed me. All I had to do was motivate people, right? All I had to do was talk to people and get people fired up. And a lot of people related to me because I was like the youngest manager there. They saw, hey, if this kid could, come from the streets, doing what he did in his previous history to now in a suit on salary, getting good bonuses, like I'm gonna listen to this kid, right? And I was a
Mhm.
goofball, so it's like I wasn't like a hard ass. I
Yeah.
wasn't like, go work, work, work. My goal was to try to figure out what makes people tick.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like I won a bunch of awards for my job position, right? Because we
Mhm.
had offices around the country, and I for my actual job position, I actually won the award for like the manager at the time, the type of manager I was.
Mhm.
It was really cool. I had a great team. They were productive, so I would say I found a lot of success in that area.
Yeah.
So if you guys hear snoring, it is not me breathing, struggling on the mic. It is actually my bulldog sleeping down here. So
I didn't get a chance before the show to say what a cutie.
Yeah.
I love
Yeah.
her. I love her.
Aw.
Yeah, yeah. I
She's
see
like my
her
best
on
friend. So.
I see her on Facebook and stuff, and yeah, she's definitely cute. Yeah, for sure.
Aw.
She's my dream dog, and we finally got her this year. She's going on tour with us, so it's
Oh,
lots of
nice.
excitement.
Take her up
Nice.
on
Yeah.
stage. Why not?
Hey, it's gonna be fun. We got the tour van, me and my lady, and now
Yeah.
my English bulldog. It's been a dream for so long. Like
Yeah.
you guys can't see it, but I actually got a calendar up here, and it's something that I manifested, right? And I
Mhm.
stopped it on the December month because I wanted the dog I get to look exactly like the dog on the calendar, and they look identical.
Yeah.
Aw,
Right? We flew out to
it's
Wisconsin,
amazing.
across the country, got her, drove back. Um, it took us some years because you have to be responsible, right? You can't
Yeah.
just dive into stuff and just take stuff. So I'm grateful. Sobriety is awesome. My life is incredible.
Yeah, yeah.
So
Let's look at a comment here.
Thanks for your comment, Rebecca. She says, I was the older sibling that was bringing my 2 younger siblings with me. Their addiction escalated more quickly to hard drugs than mine did. It took a lot of work to put down that guilt.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it'd be hard.
it's a
Yeah.
lot. It's a lot of
Yeah.
responsibility.
Well, I
Mhm.
mean, I was, and this is a little bit different, but yeah, the first time Donna tried meth was with a guy that looked a lot like me.
Mm.
So, and we can laugh about it now because we luckily survived it. But at the time, there are
Yeah.
still some times, where I think about that and like, man, I wish things would have played out different. So, but
Yeah.
anyways, yeah, we used to have a camera. Well, sometimes we have a camera that goes on our dog. Like we've got a big dog laying right by Donna's feet here.
Yeah.
He's well, you've seen our dog too on Facebook.
I've seen it before. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so sometimes we have a Sue cam.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
Hey,
So
they're man's best friend, So
yeah, yeah. So you're at this point in your story, you're killing it. You're managing a sales
it.
floor. You're doing
Winning
great.
Yep.
awards.
Winning awards
Amazing.
on
Yeah.
top of the world. 23 years old, like super young.
Yeah.
The world is
It
your
was
oyster.
but it all fell apart.
Mm.
Yeah.
It
That's
all
where I was
fell
going.
apart, and
Yeah.
so what happened is I've never experienced success like that in the real world, right? It got to my head. Also, I had almost a year clean. I was doing everything right for the probation officer. I was doing everything right that I was supposed to do. And, I started drinking. I thought, well, my addiction's with meth. I'm not an alcoholic. I can
Mm.
drink. Well,
Mhm.
I started drinking, and turns out I am an alcoholic, right?
Mm.
Funny how that works out. I started, and the reason why I say that is because not because I spent a lot of my money on it, not because I stayed at the bars late, but because of who I am as a person now as a sober man was completely different. My morals, my loyalty, what I stand on, my principles. I had a girl I was dating at the time, and she was really good to me. I'm very grateful I got a good one in my life now, but it's like I had this one, right? And she was good to me. We got clean and sober together. I started drinking, and I realized that I can't drink because I started cheating on her, right?
Mm.
I started cheating on her with the girls in the office. I started, sleeping around, I'm drinking. And that's why I say I found out I'm an alcoholic, not because I spent my money, not because I was at the bar, but because the principles that I stand on as a sober man completely went out the window. And, I wasn't the best partner. And she ended up finding out, as she should. We broke up. I moved out, and what it looked like for me moving out was, you know, um, Oxford houses. Sorry, I spaced
Yeah,
the word.
yeah.
So like Oxford houses, or I was like living with people, things like that. And it's like once she went out the window, I was like, well, now I can do coke, right?
Mm.
I can do coke. So I'm still running the office, right? I'm still running the office. I'm running around. I'm doing good still in that area of life. I'm sure they could see the decline a little bit. I'm starting to probably come and smell like booze. I'm probably drinking at lunch, but I am the hype man, so it kind of works.
Mm.
And then so like I started doing coke. And one thing I learned about coke, I figured, well, I can do coke because my addiction's with meth. Well, it turns out even if I could do coke, I can't afford it very long because coke is expensive, right?
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so I still like within a couple of weeks, I mean, my bank accounts were flushed. I
Yeah.
was the guy, right? Because I dealt with abandonment issues and things like that, right? So I always felt the need to want to show off, to be everybody's friend. It was important to win people's love over, right? And to be accepted. And so I was the type of person who would show up to the party, would have like office parties at people's houses, things like that. But I had to provide the coke for everybody. Would have like 20 people in there, and I'm giving lines to everybody. Oh, we're out. Go send somebody to go get some more. Like that's this person I was, and I only could afford that for like a week and a half, 2 weeks. No matter what salary I was on, no matter, it went quick. And then I thought to myself, well, I can't afford coke, but I'm really loving this high, right? Because I went like 3 years with drinking, almost a year clean, then like 3 years of drinking, nothing else. And so I started really enjoying the coke high, which makes sense because my addiction, my true drug of choice is meth. And so I thought to myself, if I can't afford coke, I know what I can afford. I
Mm.
could afford some meth, right? I could buy a 20 or whatever, get high on that, and I'll be good for a couple days.
For sure.
And so that's where it kind of led to everything. Like I fell right back into it. Smoking led back into shooting. I was showing up at work. I was high. I was getting high in the bathrooms. I'm not proud of this. I mean, everybody knows my story, especially like my old coworkers and the people. Hi, Adam, I'm sorry. Derek, I'm sorry. But I was selling dope.
Step
I was
9,
selling
Hard
dope.
Knocks Talks.
I was selling dope to my employees. Like some
Yeah.
of them, like not
Yeah.
everybody, but I was selling some, and it got a little off the hook. Like, you know, it was like we had to hire security in the office, like out in the hall, because there was like random fights sometime that broke out. People were stealing stuff. It was just kind of off the hook
Hang on now. This was happening at your work
at work.
because you were selling these people drugs and they were going off the hinge at work.
I don't necessarily think it's because I was selling drugs. It was kind of the whole culture started changing anyways.
Okay.
Right? The culture starts changing. You get one bad apple, things start falling apart. But that was my involvement in that, if that makes sense. I'm sure I didn't help it, the situation, But I was shooting dope in the bathroom. I was doing all types of stuff and then coming back in and trying to pretend that I wasn't high, right?
Mhm.
And trying to work. That only lasted maybe like a month. And I remember I finally got demoted back to opening position. Right. And that was hard for me, like it was humbling. It was humbling. Of course I was not enough to stop getting high. My thought was, well, you take my salary away, you take my bonuses away. How am I supposed to make money? Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm going to go back to selling dope. So I started selling dope and I'm working back at entry level position. Bob just got hired. Bob makes the same as me. Bob has the same amount of authority, right? Bob's not real, but if he was in the situation and just started, that's how much authority I had.
I'm going to sell Bob some meth and see how things go.
Bob, you got this check coming on Thursday. Check
Sabotage.
it out. Come on,
First
Bob,
one's
I
free,
funded you.
Bob.
I know
First
we
one's
get paid
free.
Monday.
Yeah.
And so we did, I started selling, right? And it became, I would clock off. I would go out and get high all night and sell downtown Portland because we were in a nice high-rise building in like the Union Bank Tower, downtown Portland, right? And so you got to imagine I'm on the block all day, selling dope, doing this, a different block than where my work was. But it's like, and then like when it came to time to get to work, I'd set a little alarm on my phone or whatever, go off. And I'm like, oh, it's time to go to work. Go to the car, throw a suit on, head back up to work. It was humbling and it was more embarrassing, I should say, to have to start over at that position. But I still felt, how should I say that? I still felt like I was entitled, right? Like I may be at the entry level position, but the other managers aren't going to say nothing to me, right? The other managers are like, I've already got my reprimanded, So I would always like, somebody would hit me up, want to buy some dope. I would just, in the middle of work, and I would just go down the elevator, walk a block and a half, go sell dope, come back. I made my money, right? I'm making minimum wage right now at the sales job. I would go make $200 or $200 on the corner and then come right back. Well, it's got to be quite obvious when you have somebody in a sober world and supposed to be a sober environment. Probably real easy to spot somebody in a suit that's twice as big. Too big for him, right? Look like you're swimming in a suit, you're geeking and tweaking, your eyes are out of your head, right? So they kind of put the kibosh on it. My manager, or not my manager, the vice president of the company, my guy Adam Ward, he's like a mentor to me, right? He told me, he's like, hey Sky, like, you got to get some help. Like, I will pay for treatment out of my entire pocket. Like, where do you want to go? Like, I will take care of it. Let's just get you straight. Right. And because he told me, and I turned it down and I looked at him and I said, Adam, do not waste your money. I said, I'll be real with you. Like, I'm just now kind of getting back into my addiction. And I said, right now I'm having a lot of fun.
So, so you knew, you were completely aware that, yep, I'm going down the rabbit hole and we're going to go down with a bang.
Going down with a bang. Yes, absolutely.
Yeah. And something else that I wanted to touch on, you said like you needed to be the light, you needed to bring all the coke, you needed to be the life of the party, you needed to make sure everybody was well serviced. Did you know at the time when you were watching your bank account get drained, like were you concerned at all, or were you just like, nah, let's fucking go, I'll make more money? Like what did that look like for you?
Kinda. I mean, it was a little scary, but I mean, you're partying. I'm like, well, as long as we got money for more coke or more drugs, like, what
Yeah.
is the issue? Like, I'm still showing up to work Monday. I
Mhm.
wasn't. So when I was in my addiction, which this whole place took, I was drinking for most of maybe 3 years there, right before things got really bad. But like my actual like drug, like hard drugs, whatever, or just drugs in general, right? That only lasted maybe like a 3 months, 2 month stint. So
Just
there's so much to unpack here in such a short time, right?
yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
But I mean, yeah, I figured like the whole time, like I wasn't the type to get high and miss work. Like I showed up the next day. I'm up,
Yeah.
might as well show up, right?
Yeah. And what
So
about the demotion? Like when that happened, what did they tell? Like, did they tell you like, look, you're on one, or what was that like?
yeah,
Like
yeah, of course, yes they did.
straight up.
Yes they did. They were straight up with me, HR had to play it from an HR standpoint. But I knew I had a lot of people in the room. It's hard to not feel betrayed because you're getting put down. These are the people that lifted you in this position. There's a lot of guilt. There's a lot of fear because you don't know what's happening. A lot of anxiety and stress all in there. So, but at the end of the day, looking back at it, I do know I was surrounded, especially a select few that actually did love me and care for me. And so I had to really, they straight up told me like, hey, like, we're going to put you back at the entry level position. Like, you should be fired for what you've done. We all agree on that, right? And as I was like,
Mhm.
yeah, I do agree. And he's like, well, so you should be fired because of it, but we are afraid if we fire you, we're not going to be able to keep tabs on you, and we care for you and we love you. So please show up tomorrow, still wear a suit, dress for the job you want, but you're going to be in the entry level position. You can work your way back up, but we just don't want to fire you because we're afraid you might die or end up in prison.
Wow,
Wow.
And so they put me back there because they wanted to at least keep tabs on me. They knew I was at least safe from those hours if I was there.
that's
And so
incredible.
it's a different type of love. Like I said, shout out to Adam, Derek, all them like who made that decision. Like,
Mm.
this is the same person, Adam, that offered me the treatment. Like,
Yeah.
I'll pay for it out of my pocket. And I was like, I don't want to waste your money. Like, I'm having fun. I know it's
Mhm.
destructive, but I am enjoying my high right now. I'm just getting back into it. This is a high I've been missing for 4 years. Like, I'm gonna go for a little ride. And sure not, like I finally lost my job. It finally became too much because I took advantage of the opportunity they gave me. And then I was on the streets full time, right?
Mhm.
And what I mean by that is like hustling and selling, right? And so when you do that, like at least if I had worked that day or in a couple hours or whatever, like I would try to be somewhat coherent. But
Mhm.
if I have no work or no job or no HR, like it's just balls to the walls. Like, we're turning up. I'll pass out when I pass out, and when I wake up, we're gonna repeat the cycle.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
I finally found myself landing back in prison that time. So
Yeah.
yeah,
What'd you go in for?
I went in for delivery.
Yeah.
So all of my charges, I probably been arrested about 20 times. All my charges are either delivery or possession, right? They get you for other stuff like trespassing or things like that because I was homeless for a lot of my earlier addiction. So, they're like, oh, well, you're trespassing. We get to search your pockets, like, type
Mhm.
thing. And then I get
Mhm.
popped for that. So I
Yeah.
have stuff like that. I did get burglary. Can't pronounce the word, but I got it. Breaking and entering, right?
Burglary.
Burglary or whatever.
Burglary.
Yeah, that word.
Yeah, that's the one.
It's one of the very few words I can't
Yeah. We
pronounce.
got that in Canada too.
Hey.
Yeah.
So look, I got that when I was like 18. But that's like, besides that, all my charges are drugs,
Yeah.
right?
Wow.
So, you live and you learn, man, but it's your experiences that bring you here and spit you out the other side a better man. So,
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
at any time in any of those proceedings, like, did a
mm,
judge or prosecutor ever say, like, "Hey, man, there's help out there"? Like, was there any sort of attempt at any sort of intervention or programming? Even when I
yeah.
assume you served some time, was there programming in facilities?
Yeah, there was programming and facilities. A lot of the stuff they do, I will say Multnomah County um, may not get the best rap for drugs because a lot of people are here and there's a lot of resources here. And so a lot of people like online and people see like the riots, or people see the homelessness, and people see all the camping outside. So we kind of get a bad rap, but I know there is a lot of opportunity if you want it in
Mm.
Multnomah County, which is Portland, Oregon, right?
Mhm.
There was always kind of opportunity, but I didn't really want to go do that, right?
Mhm.
I didn't want to
Mhm.
do that. I'd kind of serve my sentence or I want to run around. One of the times I got lucky and the probation and parole kind of dropped the ball. And one of the judges that I had, my probation judge, said, "Hey, go to court." Like, he was upset with the probation people. Like, they were dropping the ball. He didn't even know why I was in there. He rescheduled the court date. The next time the papers weren't even filed, rescheduled again. So this was like my third or fourth time in court with like 14 days left for them to arraign me, right? And figure out what I'm even in court for. So finally he told me, like, "Hey, what'd you do?" And I was like, "Hey, this is what I did." And he's like, "Cool." He's like, "You want to do treatment?" And I was like, "Yeah." And he's like, "Well, I know your probation officer wanted you to serve a sentence for this, but he's like, but if they can't get it together, we're just going to give you treatment if that's what you want. Like, that's on them. They maybe next time they'll be on their ball." Right.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
so I got treatment, and that's where I actually had some clean time, had almost a year clean, started drinking. So that's what led me to that opportunity and got me off the streets to begin with. So there
Mhm.
was programming. I know
Mhm.
doing county, I probably did about 5 times, all 5 years altogether. Right. In prison, I actually did voluntary treatment.
Did you take the voluntary treatment because you wanted to get better, or did you take it because you wanted to get out sooner?
No, so the voluntary treatment was something when I was in prison, I took it because I wanted more tools in my belt.
Okay.
So I was still getting out. I was still eligible for trans leave, whether I did it or not.
Okay.
Right?
Mhm.
Which was 3 months off my sentence. I was still eligible for that because I didn't get into any trouble, no write-ups besides smoking cigarettes in the bathroom, right? That was the only write-ups I got.
Mhm.
But besides that, it wasn't enough to take away my good time. So that was locked in. I wanted to, the reason why I wanted to go ahead and do it is because I got clean and sober for music.
Mm.
Right. And
Mhm.
so if anybody ever sees my logo, what it stands for, it's a microphone with wings, and what it stands for is micro music saved my life, and that's why it's my guardian angel, right? And so
Mhm.
I had this thought to myself: what is my best opportunity? What am I doing? What are my dreams? My
Mhm.
dreams is to make it in music, and I realized that I have never done music sober in my entire life, even starting at 11 years old.
Yeah.
Never
Mhm.
performed sober, never made music sober. I was always under the influence. So I told myself, what's my best shot at living these dreams that I had as a little kid? And that was to get sober. That was something different. I didn't get sober for recovery. I thought it was corny. It was always forced on me by probation and parole. I didn't want to be those guys. I don't want to do meetings. I don't want to do, like, that seems like a hassle. It seems like a chore, and it seemed like a punishment, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
But I told myself, what is your best chance at doing this music thing? And it's to do it sober. And so that's where my logo comes from, because I got clean and sober for music to live my dreams and to give me
Mhm.
my best advantage. Nowadays, I stay clean and sober because of the life that recovery has provided. I refuse to give up. And so that's how I led to it, right? So it opened my eyes to recovery, and now I'm full fledged. I'm in it. Like, I won't budget for nothing. I worked for my life, but it's incredible and I love it.
Let's take a quick
So
break. Can read off some sponsors and some PSAs. We'll be right back. Fetal health. We're gonna try that again. Okay. Last show, let's go.
And cut.
Yeah. Fetal alcohol spectrum disorder, known as FASD, is a developmental disorder that can impact anyone. It affects the daily lives of over 4% of Canadians, but with support and services, individuals with FASD can thrive. Learn more at saskfasdnetwork.ca. If you're interested in checking out another Canadian mental health podcaster, there's also a link for that in the show notes. Check him out. To make contact or learn more about today's sponsors, check out our new merch, or if you want to show us some love and buy us a coffee, all of those links are also in the show notes below. Here's also a link for Skyler in the show notes below. Flexin.
Hey, my man.
Yeah. So when you got sober, you got sober too, so that you could pursue music. Were you worried that if you got sober that you would lose your skills?
Honestly, not. I just never even thought about it. I never gave it that thought. All I
Mhm.
knew is that I would be able to pursue it correctly. I knew I would stay out of trouble if I was sober,
Mhm.
and I thought I might have a little bit more brain motor function, I guess you should say.
Yeah, yeah.
I was like, I might be
Yeah.
able to do this, because I made music the entire time while I was smoking weed, drinking, everything like that. But when I was on meth, like I didn't record as much, and for most of my hard drug addiction, like I didn't make music. So there's like 6-7 year gap where,
Mm.
either I'm in prison or doing this, maybe like 4 or 5, maybe 6, I don't know. But there's multiple years where I'm not doing my music. And it's
Mhm.
like, that's really
Well,
lame,
how,
right?
if I may, like, how can you? Because I mean, 10 minutes into something and you flailed out and you're off doing something else and
Mm.
then maybe come back to it and you forgot what you started. Like,
Figuring
it's
how to
Yes.
charge your cell phone on your soundboard or something.
take apart the garbage can and figure
Yeah.
out how it works,
Yeah.
like shit.
Oh
So it's
my
not,
God.
there's not much productive things
Yeah.
happening when you're on that stuff,
Yeah.
that's for sure.
Yeah. Well, the
No,
reason
and most of the time, go ahead.
So the reason I asked that though is because I've
Mhm.
had several artists on, and even recently, even in the past couple of months, I've had more than one artist on, and they both said the same thing, that they one of their reservations for getting sober was is they didn't think they'd be able to perform sober. So that's why I ask.
I've never thought about that, but here's the thing, that it makes sense people think about that. Because when I went to perform after being sober and getting out of prison, I didn't even think about it, but I was so scared and realized I have stage fright, right?
Mm.
I didn't, because I've never performed sober, and I was like, oh my God, I'm so nervous. Like, I'm scared. Like, I can't even remember a line from my song. So that makes sense.
Mhm.
Maybe they thought it all the way out.
Yeah.
Maybe I just had a wild hair and was like, let's go.
Yeah. What
But
does it go?
yeah,
It's like knees weak,
I was
arms are heavy,
knees weak, arms are heavy,
vomit on
a
your
sweater
sweater,
already.
mom spaghetti.
Yeah. But it was scary, and I still get stage fright. I really do. I learned a little bit more to have the confidence and to know that I put the preparation on behind closed doors, so my hard work will come to the light, right? I have to remember that even if I can't remember one line, as soon as that song hits, it's going to be go time, and it just happens, right? Your brain does it, like your body does it, what you've been trained to do.
Mhm.
Mhm.
And so it's instincts, right? But like those first few tours, like, or even just like solo shows, like being sober, I felt so sick. It felt like someone was squeezing like my intestines, my stomach. It just felt like my whole thing was just it sucked. And I was so
Mhm.
scared. I was so nervous. And then I performed. I didn't back out. I did it. And it was such a high and an
Yep.
adrenaline rush.
Yep.
Right. So it's kind of like you get scared. Even nowadays, I get scared. But after like a song or two in, I'm like, oh, let's go. What's next?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's definitely fun. The new high
Well,
for sure.
and I can relate, and Donna can relate.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
certain, because like Donna and I, we end up on stages too, right? Like it's
Mhm.
different. We're public
Yeah.
speakers.
Yeah.
We do keynotes and different things like that. But
Mhm.
yeah, it's that sweaty palms. And once you get up there though, and you
Mhm.
realize that your words have value and people need to hear them, and they're coming out, and
Yeah.
you're not missing anything. Yeah, it's like
No.
you walk off that stage, and oh man,
Mhm.
yeah, that's something
It,
else.
it's an adrenaline. It really is. And
Yeah.
the crazy thing is, like, us as performers, or like you guys speakers, and if anybody's listening and is like scared to chase your dreams or scared to do something, right? And like when you have to do it, you're gonna think if you mess up, right, it seems magnified. It feels like that second or two or even split second, right? It seems like it takes minutes because you're looking at
Mhm.
people, you're seeing their thoughts. He's frowning at me, he thinks I suck, like he's
Mhm.
laughing back
Somebody
there,
sitting
they're
there like
definitely
this.
laughing at me. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
like, but I've looked back at footage and I was like, oh, this is where I mess up. This is where I mess up. And I was like, what? Wind it back. Hold on. What? I can't even tell where I messed up. So if
Yeah.
anybody's watching this, most of the world won't even notice when you mess up. You just got to keep going. And if you love something, absolutely just do it. Chase those
Mhm.
dreams. So
Yeah. Yeah.
Agreed.
it's worth it.
Yeah, yeah, and I had a keynote speaker, my friend Al Kaler, pretty well known in my community here, and he said one of his mentors once told him is like, Alan, if you ever stop being scared to get on that stage, it's time to stop going up there.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
You're scared because you care.
yeah,
Mhm. Yep.
Because it means a lot to you. Like, I'm scared because this is my dreams and this is all I've ever wanted. So like if I'm not good enough or if I can't cut it, like that's what's scary. And at
Mhm.
the end of the day, going back to that conversation I had to myself in prison, the reason why I got sober is because we all have friends, right? That say, oh, I could have played ball, but like my knee was killing me. Oh, I
Mm.
could have done this. And you're
Mhm.
thinking, well, why didn't you if you can do it? And there's people
Mhm.
like, oh, I'm better than that guy. It's like, okay, So I wanted to absolutely let my story unfold, and I owed it to the little 9-year-old boy that had those dreams to be a music artist, right? And so
Mhm.
I owed it to him to let this story unfold. I'm okay if I'm not good enough. If I don't make it in music because I'm not good enough, if I don't have what it takes, it's gonna suck. But at the end of the day, I can go to bed with that because that's closure. A
Mhm.
lot of people are not good enough for a lot of things. That's just the reality of it, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
Mhm.
here's the thing. What if I didn't give it my all and I got old and I thought, man, I really could have done that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't
Yeah.
think I
Mm-hmm.
could really that I think it would kill me, that guilt. You
Mm-hmm.
really had those dreams your all entire life and you didn't give it your all?
Mhm.
That's not the story I want to live with. Not being good enough, I could deal with that.
Yeah,
Like
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
I said, so that's really what it came down to. I was like, yo, I got to get sober, because when I thought about that, I was like, well, what's my best opportunity at making my dreams come true? What's something I've never done before? And I was like, I've never done it sober.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah.
Let's give this a try.
That's
And so
amazing that
like,
you had that sort of realization, on your own accord. Like, for some people it
yeah,
takes some coaching or some whatever, right? But for you to come to that conclusion by yourself and then start to lay the foundation for that
thank you.
path, like
Mhm.
that's really remarkable. Good for you, man.
Yeah,
Thank
yeah.
you so much. I mean, it's like my dreams have always been the same, right? It's like I've wanted music since I was 9 years old, been doing music since 11. It's like I know playing the tape forward, I know how it always ends. Like I've been locked up about 20 times. So the same conversation that I always tell myself, and if you're an addict, you've ever been locked up or any type of situation, maybe you've been in rehab, you know this. You say, when I get out, I'm going to do different. When
Things
I
are
get
gonna be
out,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to get
different.
that job. Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
And you
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
probably and you're probably telling the truth, honest to God, believe it. But
Yeah.
soon as you hit those streets, things are different, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It's different from what you just told yourself they were gonna
Yeah.
be.
Yeah.
And so I was sitting there having that conversation with myself, and I thought, and I was like, man, and it's crazy because I was telling myself, and I was like, wait a second, and I had to check myself. You say this every single time, and the same results happen every single time. Bless you, baby. Every single time it happens, it is like, well, if you're serious about it, it's time to actually like apply what you know, apply what you learn, stop talking and handle it, right? Apply that action, right?
Mhm.
Mhm.
I was getting out at 28 years old from prison. Like, if you really love it, it's either kind of, I guess, excuse my language, nut up or shut up, right?
Yeah.
It's like handle it. And
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
what it
Mhm.
is. So, I mean, that's I got tired of lying to myself. I got tired of telling myself I love music, but then choosing drugs over it.
Yeah.
I got tired of telling myself that I want to do music for a living, but then not doing that, right?
Yeah.
And I didn't want to lie to myself any longer. And I figured out, if this is what I want to do, you really need to apply yourself. You're not dumb. You're smart. If you love it and you have the passion for it, everybody owes it to themselves to go
Yeah.
out there and chase their dreams and live those dreams. And so
Burn the
this
fucking
is my
boats.
dreams.
Mhm.
Burn them.
Yeah. Everyone, even the canoe under the bushes over there.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
So once you made up your mind on that front,
Mhm.
like how quickly did you start getting bookings and different things? And I guess so where I'm kind of going with this is,
Mhm.
there's that window of uncertainty, right? Like you're
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm like committed, but maybe things aren't lining up quite the way that you had hoped or
Yeah.
whatever sort of terminology you want to use. How did you cope in those times? Like,
Uh,
what got you through? When you start
You
to have
know,
those self-doubts and like, "Oh, maybe this
yeah.
isn't gonna work out." Those kinds of,
Maybe I should
the
go back to
negative.
sales.
Yeah.
Hey, well, that's the thing. So look, I got out, right? And I had this whole entire revelation, and like I stayed clean and sober the whole time in prison. Like, because I had drug charges, I wasn't a violent offender. I got stuck in minimum. I had gate clearance, so I was out cleaning up the highways.
Mm,
Everybody's sneaking stuff back. Everybody's
mhm,
drinking when you're at the homeless camps, finding bottles. Like, people are doing all to whatever they find, right? And then, of course, you're in prison, so there's drugs. I stayed clean and sober the entire time. I smoked my cigarettes when I was in there. But when I got out, right? So my clean date is actually after I got out. For the simple fact is, I had a reservation, and if anybody who knows anything about that, it's where you tell yourself, if this situation happens, this is kind of how it's going to go down, right?
Mhm.
And so, I told myself when I get out, I would write a passage. As a man, I felt like as a man getting out of prison, going to prison, right? Um, when I get out, I'm gonna have me a nice cigar and I'm gonna have me a nice drink. I already know what drink I want. I had one picked out. And so I kind of sat on it for a few days and I got out. And when I went from county to prison, I wrote like 3 albums in there, a bunch of music, and the guards wouldn't let me take it with me. So I gave it to somebody in there.
Oh.
And so, after being out of prison for like 6, 7 days or whatever, that guy hit me and was like, "Hey, I got your notebook." And I was like, "Yo, that's crazy. I thought it was lost." And I was like, "Where can we meet?" And he's like, "Oh, come meet me. I'm at this bar." And I thought, well, here we go, right? And so
Mm-hmm.
I told myself I was gonna have just one. I had just one, right? So I told myself, okay, I'm gonna have just one. But here's where it really caught me is when, mind you, I had no housing when I got out. Okay. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was living in free housing, and the one rule is you had to be clean and sober to live there, right? You have to pass UAs, you have to do this, you have your own little studio apartment, shared bathrooms, but like a little closet. Like, no, my studio is probably as big as the room I was in, right?
Mm-hmm.
But I went out and had this drink, and I'm downtown Portland in my stomping grounds, and it kind of, I wasn't hanging out with the best of people, right? People, places, and things.
Yeah.
And I was hanging out with my friends, and they were selling dope, and I was riding in the car with them. They were out there hustling and things like that. And so I kind of had to think about my actions. And then I remember when I had that drink and I was riding home, and I was on public transportation, and I was listening to good music, and I was thinking to myself, when you have that drink and your lips start, getting a little bit buzzy and start getting a little numb. I was riding back and I was like, okay, so here's the game plan. When I get back to this apartment downtown, what I'm gonna do is, because I got the keys. So if the guy's working at the front desk, I'm gonna pretend I'm smoking a cigarette. Then when he turns around, I'm gonna sneak up. And I caught myself, and I thought about it, and I was like, wait a second, sneak up. And I went back to that whole conversation I just told you guys about in prison.
Mm-hmm.
And I said, wait a second, if sneaking up, that means I'm doing something I'm not supposed to be doing. And I said, I better check myself because I know how slippery of a slope it is. You can't drink, you can't do this. It always
Mm-hmm.
leads to the same thing. And so that was on December 5th, 2018.
Mm-hmm.
So I laid in bed that night, scared, what my future might result in. And the very next day is my clean date, December 6th, 2018. A little over 5 years ago, I decided that there's nothing. There's no reservation. I can't just have a drink. I can't do that.
Mm-hmm.
And decided to really take it seriously.
Where was mom and dad through all of this?
Mom and dad, my mom split up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? I was in foster care for some of it. I think my mom was down in like Southern Oregon. My dad was up in Portland.
Mm-hmm.
But my dad, bless
Like,
his
were
heart,
they in your life?
yeah, they were in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But bless their heart, but it wasn't really, no one was really set up to really take any action or responsibility.
No one knew what to do.
No, yeah, kind of on my own, and which is okay.
Mm-hmm.
It definitely made me stronger. So,
Yeah, yeah.
and if anybody's listening, I talked to my mom and dad. I was just at a concert with my dad last night. I talked to my mom this morning.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely love them. We all do the best we can in this world, but I cherish them, and I'm grateful for what they've done for me. So
So I got a comment.
Hmm.
Let's see what we got here.
I'm not surprised to see that you put that one up.
Yeah.
From our good friend Onyx. She says, some of my best lies are the ones I told myself. But the best truth is that I am not my story. I'm lived experience created by divine.
Mm-hmm.
that's
Thanks.
beautiful.
I love Onyx's comments. They're just always so amazing.
Yes, and there's no typos tonight. That's amazing.
Oh,
Hey, let's
she
go,
must have her
Onyx.
glasses. We love you, Onyx.
And then answer your question. What I do in situations is I just remember what I have going for me. I remember I keep my eye on the prize, understand my focus. I'm kind of a hermit, right? I only pop out during shows or tours, or if I need to run the post office or get some food.
Mm-hmm.
So with that being said, I deal with a lot of situations in my safe zone, which is my house.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I catch myself sometimes get angry, things like that. But at the same time, I'm pretty I'm careful with my recovery, right? I cherish it enough that, I'm very choosy with my energy and where I spend time at and things like that, right?
Mm.
I don't go out and hang out. When I do pop out and it shows, I do come in with the expectations that yes, unless I'm on my road to recovery tour, there is going to be drugs, there is going to be drink, it's going to be everywhere, right? But at the end of the day, I have my best friend, my other half, my partner in crime, Kayla Mulcahy. I got my new addition, my dog. Like, life is everything I've always dreamed of. Of course, I have a long way to go to reach the peak of those dreams, but I am living the journey right now of what it takes to get there and to do what I absolutely love for a living. I have to be cautious of my recovery. I have to be careful. I have to be, I have to respect what drugs are and respect what drugs can do to me and
Mhm.
understand that I am an addict, right? I don't take that lightly. Just because I've changed my ways, it does not mean I'm fixed.
Mm.
Just because, I live a different way doesn't mean that I can't fall right back, So I always try to keep that in the back of my mind. I don't do meetings. I don't do the big book. I highly recommend it if anybody's listening. I know it works, but for me, that's not my recovery. I go on tour, these road to recovery tours. I stop into treatment centers. I talk with people. I get a chance to hear their story. I share my story. And it's really cool, and it gives me strength and hope,
Yeah.
to be able to hear what people are like, because maybe I'm talking to somebody who's only been in recovery for a week, and they'll tell me their story, and I'm like, damn,
You
that's what it
fucked
was
up.
like.
Mm.
Yeah, like, oh, I forgot that pain I felt, or how
Yeah,
hard
yeah.
like, that's crazy.
Mhm.
I was scared like that before. I've been through that, and it really keeps it alive,
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
and I think it's important to be able to handle things like that. So at the end of
Mhm.
the day, I just respect drugs for what they are. I respect that and acknowledge that I'm an addict, and I'm just cautious.
Yeah.
That's the best way to handle it.
Mhm.
So you a man of faith, spiritual beliefs, what
I
guides you? What guides you?
I do believe in God. I do
Yeah.
believe in God. Um, you know, just like recovery, I don't go to church,
Yeah.
but I know my relationship with him is, in the Bible, it says that your relationship is, he understands you, right?
Mhm.
And that as long as you know you're good with him, he's good with you. And so that's always kind of been my thing is, I know he's looking out for me. I know he's going to be there for me. And all I can do is continue to walk my best foot forward. And so
Mhm.
that's what I do. Absolutely. I believe in God. I know he's there. Like, that's just what it is. Like I said, I don't do the church thing, but it's okay because I have belief and he understands who I am, and he made me who I am. So
Mhm.
he
Mhm.
accepts me believing in him the way I do.
Awesome.
So,
Right on, man. I think we're
Mhm.
gonna cap it there. What do you
okay.
think? Anything left?
No, I feel like it was a fantastic conversation. Like really, really
Yeah.
great, guys.
Thank
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
man. Where can people find you? Tell us about your music. Where can we find it?
Okay, you can find me anywhere, Skyler Ray. That Skyler is with an E, not an A, so it'd be Skyler, Ray. So Skyler Ray. All platforms, look me up under there. I will come up, Google it, whatever. It will pop up there. If you're looking for merchandise, officialskylerray.com. Also, I wouldn't be who I am if I didn't plug my best friend. Check out Kayla Mulcahy. That is my other half. She's the reason why I go as hard as I do, right?
Mhm.
So absolutely check her out. She's amazing. And it's spelled Kala. That's Kayla. And then Mulcahy's a mouthful. So check it out. So
Yeah. You got to figure that out.
Mulcahy. Figure it out. But you
Yeah.
look me up, it will lead to her. That's how you find me. I appreciate you guys so much for inviting me on the podcast. It's been a blessing.
All right. Cool, man. Thanks so much, Skylar, for joining us, and we
Mhm.
will let you go.
Mhm.
Take care.
Take care.
Thank you, my friend.
Yeah.
Hey.
So that's it. I just want to say thank you to everybody, all of the organizations that have supported us along the way. This is our last show. This is our last show in this studio. This is the studio where it all got started, where I started with my laptop 3.5 years ago, living on student loan, not having any money, rusty Pontiac in the driveway, full-time dad, then 50% dad, and all of the things. I'd like to thank Prairie Sky Recovery Center for being the very first organization to step up and believe in me, believe in what I do. I want to thank Mom Stop the Harm, Prairie Harm Reduction. I want to thank the Elizabeth Fry Society. I want to thank, Saskatchewan Union of Nurses.
FASD network.
The FASD network of Saskatchewan Possibilities Recovery Center. Who else?
Oh, God.
The CRISM, the
School of
Canadian
Public Health.
Whoa, hang on, I gotta say them. The Canadian Research Initiative in Substance Misuse, the School of Public Health, Barb, my friend, the College of Medicine, the College of Nursing, the College of Pharmacy and Nutrition. Thank you, everyone, and thank you especially to the community that has come up around us, for everyone who watches, everyone who comments and leaves their thoughts on our content. Thank you all. We are not gone. We are gone for but a minute. We are going to come back stronger and louder in a new space, in a new home, on the next stage of our life. And we're looking forward to having you along with us right here on Hard Knocks Talks. We will see you soon.
Here, here.
Say, this is Hard Knocks Talks.